Hello friends, welcome to Edwiki Learning channel. Please do subscribe to get more updates on the DevOps concepts. This video is part of the full course AWS DevOps Practitioner training. Please do check the description below to get the link for the complete full course. Without further delay, let's get into the video. Thank you.
Welcome back team, and we'll continue our discussion, right? So the goal that I have here is uh, whatever is needed for us as a DevOps engineer, right? Or whatever the different job roles that I talked about. Because when you are learning the DevOps course, right, you will be eligible to work as a cloud engineer, DevOps engineer, SRE role, right? I talked about quite few different job titles, right, where we will be eligible to work on, right? For all of these different job roles, whatever the required skills, right, how much knowledge that we need, I'll be covering that much of skill set, guys. The reason why I'm highlighting this wording again and again, right, we are trying to learn multiple tools here, right? We can't be expertise in every tool, and we don't need to be as well, right? So in which tool, how much knowledge that we need to gain as to work as these different job titles, will be learning that much, guys. I mean to say, right, today I'm going to start with the Linux. Okay, so if you compare with the Linux administrators, right, the Linux administrators who are working core on the Linux system itself will have more knowledge. We don't need that much of knowledge when you are working as a DevOps kind of role. That's why it is, right? So I'll not go deeper and deeper in each and every aspect of the Linux, which is not needed as well. I kept you on mute, right? So we'll go whatever is needed as per our job scope, and we'll definitely understand the reason why we are limiting certain area, why we are going in extended discussion at a certain area down the line, guys, based on, or once we come to the level where we understand the role of a engineer to, right, do this DevOps kind of world. That's how it is. Okay. Well, and one other note before we get started with, right, the meeting link is going to be changed from tomorrow onwards. So I think the meeting link will be shared for whoever has registered our course, whoever has added to the WhatsApp group will be getting the meeting link start from tomorrow. If you have not added to the WhatsApp group, please do check with the admin and get it added by your number as well, guys, so that we'll be getting the updates start from tomorrow, right? Good. Now coming back to the story, right, we have already had enough information about the AWS EC2 service, right, how to create a simple EC2 instance on AWS cloud, right? Let me go ahead and create one simple EC2 instance now, right? I'll just go to launch instances tab, and I will just fill up this form, right? The name of the instance, which is the name tag, the Amazon Linux 2023 AMI T2.micro, select the key pair from the drop down and leave everything as default. And let me go and click on launch instances, right? So now I'll get the instance ready. Well, once the instance is ready, I'm going to get the public IP of the instance. I don't need to use the Elastic IP for our use case at this time at least, right? So I'm happy with this public IP, and I'll use my PuTTY software, and I will use this saved session. I'll just replace the IP. The key and the other information is already saved, so I don't need to attach the key each and every time, correct? So now let me open this. So currently I'm seeing connection refused. That is fine. Is mean that your server is not ready. You see this? Your server is still not ready, hence it is not logged in. Wait for some time. Let the server turn into running state. Now come back. Usually if your partition is like disconnected, right, you will see inactive in the top, and you just need to do a right click and restart the session. Accept EC2 user. Good. So what is the reason that I have created this instance, guys? I need to use this instance to run my website, right? That's the goal. To do that, we need to know how to configure the Linux operating system as per our job or as per our business needs, correct? So this is where we need to have some Linux skills as well to know how to use this system, how to configure this system. So today I'll jump on to the Linux operating system basics, right? But it's not mean that we are done with EC2, guys. I will come back to the EC2 after the Linux basics. I will continue discussing the remaining concepts in the EC2 and in the AWS as well, right? For now, we know the basics how to create a EC2 server. That is good enough to go with the Linux system skills. And once we're done with Linux, I'll come back and we'll continue the rest of the AWS. Overall, the AWS itself will be spending at least 20 and 25 days, guys. So this is not complete yet, right? So let's see what is this Linux operating system, how to use this Linux operating system, and at first place, right? So to deal with the Linux operating system, let me bring up some of the slides that I do have. If you guys are already familiar with any of the operating system like the Windows or Mac, whichever the operating system that you guys are currently using in your laptops, if you are really familiar about that operating system, I think learning the Linux operating system is not a difficult task. Okay, so any operating system, what is the main purpose, guys? Any operating system that you take on, it will be acting as an interface between you and the computer, you and the hardware, right? So whatever you are trying to get the things done from your system, you talk to the system using the operating system, correct? In a way. So when it comes to the Linux operating system, right, you see the system here, still it has a processor, hard drive, memory, typically a general system having some hardware devices interconnected, right? That's how the systems will be. To work with this system, right, as a user, I cannot go and talk to the processor and hard drive directly, right? Those are the hardware devices, and the the hardware devices will be listening, will be understanding the machine language, correct? And we speak the English language in a way, right? The hardware is listening the machine language, where is the communication gap, right? So to work with the systems, to talk with the systems, right? So we are installing the operating system here. The Linux operating system will be installed on this hardware, so that the Linux operating system is acting as an interface. So you speak to Linux operating system. The Linux operating system will be going and speaking with the respect to hardware, and finally your work will be done. That's how it works, right? So when I say Linux operating system, right, the operating system is a big software, right? So in that, the kernel is one of the primary or important software piece. Like the kernel is the software which is the or which is playing the major role in the Linux operating system. You think of like the operating system is the combination of multiple softwares, right? Let's say software 1, software 2, software 3. So by combining all these softwares together in one single bundle, that is the OS, correct? So in the OS, the kernel is the software name which is playing the more important role in the operating system, which is responsible in talking with the hardware, right? So at end of the day, who is talking with the hardware? Like hard drive, processor, memory, right? Whatever the hardware devices that you have in your system, the kernel is the one which is going and talking with the hardware devices, guys, based on your requirement. So if that is the case, right, whatever you are expecting your system has to do, you need to send the instruction to the kernel. The kernel will take it in a way it can be understandable to the system hardware, and finally your hardware will make the things done right at high level. So how do you speak with the kernel? Even we can't work with the kernel directly because the kernel also cannot understand the language that we speak. Hence the reason on top of the kernel, right, we are using the another software called shell. Shell is the software name. The shell software is acting as a interpreter between you and the kernel. So let's say I wanted to speak with my system. Hey, I want to play this movie. Hey, I want to print this paper, correct? Usually you go to your Windows system and you click on movie file name to play it. What does it mean? You are actually speaking to your system, right? Correct. So you go to print option and you click on the print. That means you are sending some instructions to the system and you are expecting the system to do this task, correct? So whatever you are expecting the system to do for you, right, you need to pass the instruction. That instruction, that command you give to shell, the shell will understand what is that you are looking for. The shell will be translating that command to the kernel. The kernel will understand what needs to be done. The kernel will go and talk to the corresponding hardware, whichever the hardware is responsible for that. Finally, the things will be done. At high level, I would say the kernel will be delivering this to a processor via the memory, and finally the processor will be executing your command, and finally the things will be done. That's how it works in the backend. But we are not going deeper and deeper there. At high level, I would say that, right? So you as a user, you give the command to the shell. The shell will be interpreting the command to the kernel in a kernel understandable language. The kernel will be going and talking to the backend hardware, and finally the things will be done. That's how it works. In a system, right, usually there is only one kernel software will be active and up and running, but you can have multiple shell softwares, guys. You see this? So there are multiple shell softwares can be installed and configurable in a single system possible. Why do you need multiple shell softwares? Shell is basically taking the command from the user, right? Let's say the user is giving the command. That command should be understandable by the shell, right? Each user may be speaking a different languages, just to understand it hypothetically, right? So I have some 10 users that are using my system. Each and every user is using the different type of command to work with the system. That command should be understandable by the shell. The shell should be able to translate to the kernel, right? So for each set of commands, there is a different shell software is available. And each shell software has its name as well. I'll definitely call out the names of the shells in a while. So as a summary, a system has only one kernel active at any given point of the time, and it can have multiple shell softwares, and the user can select which shell that he wanted to use to give his command so that the command can be translated it into the kernel, right? The user can decide which shell that I need to take on, right, to give my command so that the commands will be translated to the kernel, guys. So in other way, so let's say there are 100 commands that I wanted to pass on. These shell softwares are already predefined to understand certain commands. Let's say the 1 to 10 commands will be understandable by shell 1. The 10 to 20 commands are understandable by shell 2, something like this. Then which command that you are trying to pass on, and see which shell software will be responsible to do the translate, and you need to pick up that particular shell software only. That's how it works, right? But that's the architectural prospect to the discussion, but we don't need to worry about working on multiple shell softwares, because whatever the commands that we wanted to give to my system, all those commands will be understandable by a shell called bash shell. If I look into the different shells that are available in the Linux systems, right, you see this, the Bourne shell, C shell, right, and T shell, K shell, Bourne shell, bash, which is called as a bash shell as well. So all these are the different shell softwares that are available in the Linux system, guys. As I said some time back, right, each shell software is designed to understand certain set of commands only. The command that is understandable by Bourne shell may or may not be understandable by the C shell. That's how it works. So you have to see the command that you want to give to a system is understandable by which shell and use the same shell only. Does it make sense? At this time, you don't need to worry about the which command can understand what kind of the which shell will understand what kind of the commands, all these things. For now, bash is the shell that we need to use throughout our lecture, right? We will never ever using any of other shells, guys. So we don't need to worry about how the other shells are working, what commands will be understandable by other shell softwares. We are 100% using the bash shell only, which is the default shell in the Linux system. All the commands that you need to run as a engineer to make your system configurable, ready to work as our business use, all those will definitely be working on the bash shell. So we don't need to worry of any other shells, guys. Usually some of the shells will be available by default when you get a operating system. If those are not available, yes, we need to install those shell softwares explicitly whenever you have a specific requirements. But we don't need to worry about here how to install the shell software, how to make the things working on all, because we will never ever work on any of the other shell softwares. We don't need to worry. We need only the bash shell software that is by default available in all the Linux systems, and we'll just go and start using it without worrying about any of the shell software installations here, right? So usually the people who are working on the like scientific background, maybe a data analytics background, some sort of the robotic development, program development background. So those guys will be using the other shell softwares, maybe a corn shell, bone shell, something like this, right? Because those people will be running a different set of commands to make the things working as per their job role, right? We don't need to worry about that. So for our job role, bash shell is needed. That is by default available. We'll just go and use it and make the things done. Is it clear, guys? Is mean that the bash shell is the default shell that is available in the Linux system, and we are going to use the same. Usually, whenever you log into the Linux operating system from your PuTTY or from your Mac terminal, whatever the mode that you use, right? So here we see the symbol, right? Whatever you see here after you log into the Linux system, that is called as a bash prompt symbol. Here I'm seeing the dollar symbol, right? The dollar symbol is called as a bash prompt symbol, right? And whatever the cursor that you see here, the cursor is saying that, hey, the bash shell is readily available to you to run the command. Now is the time for you to execute the commands. That means the bash shell is already granted for you, which is the default shell. Now you can just run the commands and make the things done. That's it. So wherever the cursor is coming up, right, that is where you need to give your command to the shell. Once you type the command there, just click on enter. That way your command will be taken by a bash shell. It will translate to kernel. Kernel will go talk to hardware. Finally, your command will be executed by processor and it will be done. So that is called as a bash prompt symbol. If you don't have this prompt symbol, if you don't have this cursor, then is mean that you don't have a bash shell, you can't run any commands. Good. So let me show you some of the uh, Linux commands that you need to be familiar with here, right? So let's say date is the command just to see the date that is currently set in, right? Initially, whoever is completely new to the Linux, it will be little clumsy to understand because it's like a blank screen, nothing is there, and why we are running all these commands, something like this. Think of like initially, at least compare this with the Windows systems, guys, or whichever the laptop that you are using in. You log into your laptop, you got an operating system, right? So if you wanted to see the time, what is the current time? What do? You go to your laptop, top, bottom, right corner, and you mouse over there, and you can see the time, right? What is the time that is currently set for your system? Same thing that I'm doing here. Linux is the command line based operating system. So anything that you wanted to know, you should execute a command, not like a graphical user interface where you take the mouse and navigate over your system like this. No, whatever you wanted to do, anything you need to execute it as a command only, right? And here I wanted to see the time that is set in my Linux operating system or in my Linux server in a way, right? And you see here it's showing like the date, the time, the time zone. Time zone is in UTC. Like you all know the time zones, right? The I meant to say EST, right? ITC, right? Indian Standard Time, IST, right? So UTC is the universal time zone, right? So there are different time zones. Currently, this is set to UTC time zone and the year, something like this. Anyway, that's fine. So I'm just trying to give you some familiarity about the commands, what these commands are doing actually, right? So maybe you can do the cal command to see the whole calendar, right? Something like this. And usually, as and when you execute any command, right, the command will taken by a shell. It will go to kernel, then the processor. Finally, the command is executed, right? And whatever the output of the command, the output will be displayed here in the screen itself, right? So now after this output, that means once your command is executed successfully, once you get an output of that command, then again you get a bash prompt symbol. What does it mean, guys? One at a time, you can run only one command on your terminal. Once that output is there, then you are getting a one more bash prompt symbol. That means the bash is telling that, hey, I'm ready to take on any new command. And again, you run the command, you get output, again you got a bash prompt symbol. Okay, so you see that the bash prompt symbol is reached at end of my screen, which I don't like it. So always you can do a clear command to clear the screen. The clear command is not deleting anything, guys. This is just to clean up the screen so that the screen will start from the first line again, because it's easy for me to work from the top line rather working on the bottom line, right? So I can just clear up my screen and go back to the line number one. That's it. Well, so what exactly we need to do in this Linux operating system? Whatever the operations that you do in your Windows or any other uh, operating systems that you guys are currently using in your laptops, the same thing that I'm going to do in my Linux as well, guys. Nothing new here. The only difference is if it is Windows, you might be using the mouse click to operate your system. If it is Mac, again, you are doing the mouse click to do some operations. If it is Linux, the same thing I'm going to do using the commands, nothing much. As part of that, let me talk about the Linux file and directory structure first. So can I use this statement at this time, guys? So at the end of the day, either it is Mac or Windows or Linux, whatever the operating system that you guys are using, at the end of the day, I think you are keeping some data in your system, and whenever you need the data, you are trying to utilize or consume the data. I think that is the only operation that you do most of the times. Agree? It could be storing a movie file, could be creating a document, could be creating a PowerPoint, could be creating a notepad file, or could be anything. So at the end of the day, can I use this statement? You are trying to keep some content to the file, to the system. Whenever you need it, you are trying to use the content again. Correct? If it is a movie file, maybe you are playing the movie. That is the way how you are utilizing the content. If it is a document, you are trying to read the document whenever you want to. That is how you are utilizing the content, correct? Or retrieving the content. So that means I'm going to keep some content in the system, and whenever I need, I'm going to use the content again. That's the only activity that we need to worry about. When you are keeping some content or the files in the system, right, there should be some a folder structure to maintain your data in a proper hierarchical fashion, correct? Think of our Windows. Let's say I want to go and store some data. I want to keep my movie file, right? You will definitely make a plan, right? Okay, I wanted to structurize my content in this way. I'll create some different folders. Inside the each folder, I'll make a subfolders. Then I'll keep my movie content in there, my other videos in other folder, something like this. You plan something, right? So that is called as a files and the folder structure that you guys are following to make your content is more aligned. If you see this screen, yes, if it is a Windows, usually you have a C colon, which is the initial point to access your hard drive. And inside that C colon, you will see some folders. Inside again, you see some subfolders, again some subfolders. Correct? No? This is how you will be seeing in. Similarly, even in the Linux system, right? So there is a top level folder which is called as a slash. Like how you guys are seeing C colon slash slash as the initial point to access your hard drive. Similarly, in the Linux, slash is the folder name, right, which you need to use. Inside the slash folder, there will be some more subfolders, and these subfolder names are OPT, home, TMP, USR, right? This is how the name of the subfolders will be. Okay, and initially I'm comparing with Windows, guys, because that is pretty much familiar for everyone, right? No other reason, so that at least you will not worry that Linux is something different. No. In Windows, you usually see, right, users, program files, downloads, my documents, my pictures. How many of you familiar with them? It's very common, right? You go to any Windows system, you see the such default folder names. Why? Those are the standard folder names exist in every system. Those folders are created to keep certain content. Anything that you download will go to downloads folder. Anything that you wanted to save, by default that will be get saved into my documents folder. That's the general strategy. Of course, you can keep wherever you want to, but in general, certain default folder structure is maintained by your Windows system. Similarly, in the Linux also, slash is the folder name, which is the starting folder to access your hard drive. Inside that, all these are the standard folder names that are exist in every Linux system. Each and every folder is created for a specific purpose. What kind of the data that I wanted to keep in these folders, right? There's a reason. So down the line, we'll see what kind of the content we need to keep in which folder. But for now, just understand that OPT is the folder name, HOME is the folder name, TMP is the folder name, like that the folders are there. Each folder is dedicatedly for certain content. Each folder will have a subfolders again. You see this. Every folder will have its own subfolder, guys. Again, when it comes to the Linux, from the terminology wise, the folder is called as a directory. So now onwards, rather me using the term called folder, I'll use the terminology called directory. But both are same, guys. Folder is the Windows terminology. Directory is the Linux terminology. That's only the difference. The overall characteristics are same. That means, now can I use this statement? Slash is the top level directory in the Linux system. Inside that, I have multiple subdirectories, and inside we have a few more subdirectories. I'm just slowly changing my terminology. Now, the starting slash, whatever you see, right? That slash, can I call it as a root directory? The reason why I'm calling this as a root directory is, root means what? Root is mean the starting point, correct? So slash is the directory which is the starting directory for my system. So that directory, I'm calling it as a root directory. So now my statement is, in the Linux system, I have the root directory called slash. In that slash root directory, I'm going to have all the subdirectories and then the subdirectories. Sorry. Now, usually one directory will have another directory, right? The top directory is called as a parent directory, and below directory is called as a child directory. Now here, let's say HOME is the parent directory of a directory called EC2-user. Make sense, guys? Or maybe I'll come here. LOG is the parent directory of a directory called messages. VAR is the parent directory of a directory called LOG. Or LOG is the child directory of a var directory. Make sense, guys? So in Linux, all the directories are putting in a hierarchical fashion, and we have a relationship called parent and the childs. A directory will never exist in the Linux system without a parent. Agree with me? A directory will never be exist without a parent, but forget about the root, because that is a root level directory, right? There's nothing parent for the root directory. There is a starting point in my system. Now you see here, yes, inside the directory I can have one more directory, and I can have one more directory, and in one of the directory I can see a file as well. What's the difference between file and directory, guys? What's the difference between file and folder? Simple to answer, right? Folder and directory both are same, right? If I come back to here again, right? So here you can see a folder. A folder will contain a multiple folders or the files, right? A folder will contain some more subfiles or some subdirectories, but a file will contain the content. A file cannot be containing a folder again, right? So the file, in the sense, it has some content where you write some text and keep the content saved. That's the difference between file and the folder, or file and the directory. Now, let's say I'm in Windows again. I have one file here, the PDF file. So if I ask you a question that, hey, this file is currently in which location, correct? Usually if you are asking a, hey, I want to play the movie, right, and tell me where the movie file is there, someone will tell you that, hey, can you go to C colon, can you go to movies folder, can you go to a language specific folder, and you can find the movie file name and just play it, correct? What is that called? That is called as a absolute path of the file. In this case, whatever the file that I have highlighted here, if I ask you the question, hey, this file is in which location in my system, so this is the location, correct? This file is in D colon Edwiki Trainings SRE DPT 11 folder, correct? So what is this called? This is called as a absolute path of the file where it is located. Agree with me? That means whenever you are keeping some files in a system, the files can be created everywhere, wherever you wanted to. This file is in this folder. I can see multiple folders here, and each folder has some different files and all, right? So at the end of the day, I need to worry about this absolute path, correct? In which location, what kind of the data that is located. The same thing will be applicable for Linux as well. If I come back to my Linux system, let's say here I have a file called F2. Let's say F2 file is containing some data in it. If I ask you, hey, tell me where my F2 file is located in my Linux operating system, how do you tell the answer? The F2 file is in root directory. Inside the root directory, HOME directory. Inside that EC2-user directory. Inside that dir1, inside that dir2, inside that there is a file called F2. That is how you need to represent the location of the file where it is created in your system. Agree with me? Right? You see the F3 file. If I ask you, hey, where is the F3 file? Again, you need to tell the location. Always your absolute path. When I say absolute path, in the sense, the path that you are representing start from the root directory, right? Always you need to tell from the root directory when it says absolute path. So if I ask you, hey, tell me where my F3 file is there. The F3 file is in slash, under that home, under that EC2-user, under that there is a file called F3. That is how we need to locate the file, guys. Where is F4 file? The F4 file is in root directory. Inside that TMP directory, inside that F4 file is there. So all what you need to learn here is how to create a directory if you want to, how to create a file if you want to, and how to know which file is in which directory, how to go there and there. That's it. We're done. If it is Windows, so simple, right? You usually just navigate using the mouse click. Wherever you wanted to, you just go to the folders, look for the data, and go back to another folder, look for the data. This is called as a folder navigation, correct? Similarly, in Linux as well, we need to do the folder navigation. Let me show you that now. Let me come back to practicality. Give me some time. Yeah. The very first thing that I wanted to know in my Linux system is, or I would say, I'm pretty much sure that my Linux system has multiple directories, correct? I'm not able to see anything in the screen, but the Linux system has multiple directories. If then, currently I am in which directory? That is what I wanted to know. pwd is the command which will tell you that you are currently working in which directory. You get the output here. You see the output. The output says that, hey, you are currently working in the root directory. This is my current working directory, guys. And if you wanted to know what are the child files and the child directories are inside the root directory, you need to run the command called ls. ls is the command to list the files and the directories that are currently available in your present working directory. It is saying that, hey, under the root directory, right, we can see all of this content: var directory, usr directory, tmp directory, right, opt directory. This is what I have shown you some time back using this hierarchical fashion. You see, root directory, under that opt, home, all these are the directories, right? Same thing that I'm showing in a command here. Following me? Now, let's say currently I'm working in the root directory. I wanted to go to any other directories. Okay, let's say I want to go to a directory called h4me. How do you go? The cd is the command to go inside another directory. Like if it is Windows, so simple. Let's say currently I'm in d colon. If I want to go to any of the directory, you go and double click on this, go inside the folder, right? And this is called as a present working directory, correct? My Windows system has hundreds of directories. Out of them, my present working directory, my pwd is dpt-ppts, correct? So this is my present working directory. Whenever I wanted to go to any other directory, just use the mouse click and go wherever you wanted to, correct? This is called as a folder navigation. Similarly, in a Linux, pwd is the command to see currently you are in which folder. If you wanted to go to any other folder, the command is cd and specify the location to which location you wanted to go. Let's say I wanted to go to h4me directory. Where is this directory, guys? h4me is inside the slash, right? This is how we need to represent the location. Now, if you ask me where I'm currently working on, I'm currently working on /home directory. I already entered into a home directory. Let's say cd. I wanted to go to a different directory now. Let's say I want to go to tmp directory. This is my directory name. Where is this tmp directory, guys? The location. The tmp directory is inside the root directory. So specify the root directory name as a prefix and hit enter. You see, currently I am inside the tmp directory. That's how cd is the command, which is the change directory command, which will allow you to change your present working directory to a different directory. And when you are using the cd command, you have to specify the path of a folder or of a directory where it is located currently. Currently, I am using the absolute path. Whenever you are mentioning the path starting from the root directory, that is called as absolute path, and I'm just going there. Now, let's say I want to create my own folder. I logged into my Linux server, right? I want to create my own directory. mkdir is my command to create a new directory which I want to. Then specify the directory name. Maybe my directory name is dir1. So when you are creating a directory, what will be the next question, guys? Where you want to create a directory, correct? Let's say if it is Windows, definitely you'll ask me the question. Hey, can you go and create a folder in my Windows system? Immediately you ask me, tell me the location where you want me to create, correct? You want me to create it in desktop or in downloads folder or in somewhere else? Similarly here as well. So when I'm creating a directory, where it has to be created? So specify the location, guys. Okay. I want to create a directory under the root directory. So then specify slash. So whenever you're running this command and you are getting output, this time the output saying that, hey, you are trying to create a directory under the root directory, that is fine, but it is failing to create a directory because you are not authorized person to do this. You don't have access. When I say who does not have access here, guys? Or maybe a question for you guys now. Who is running this mkdir command? From the system perspective, from the Linux perspective, who is running this mkdir command? Who logged into this system? Which username that you have used to logging into this system, that user is actually running these commands, right? That means the EC2-user is the user that I have used here to logging into this system, and currently I am using this username to run these commands. It is telling that, hey, EC2-user does not have permission to do this to run this command. If you really wanted to know who is using this system at this time, you can run the command called who am I. It will tell you that, hey, currently this user is logged in, does not have enough permissions here. Why? The EC2-user is the normal user or ordinary user. This user does not have complete permission on the system, guys. Some commands are working, but some commands are not working. That means this user does not have full permissions on the system. Then how to manage my system, right? So if you really wanted to make use of this system without any restriction, then you need to log in as a different user called as a administrative user. Sometimes we can call it as a super user. Now, the Linux system has two different type of users. One is the ordinary user, one is the super user. Ordinary user does not have complete permission to do anything. The the super user has full permissions. Due to security reasons, you cannot logging into the Linux operating system directly as a super user. You have to log in as a EC2-user, which is the ordinary user initially. Then to log into the super user, the command is sudo su-. Now you see this command. Who am I? Who currently logged into this system, guys? The answer is ROOT. That means ROOT is the username in the Linux systems, which is the super user in the Linux systems. If you log into the Linux system as ROOT user, then you have unlimited permission. You can do anything. How to log in as a root user? First you log in as a EC2-user, then you run the command called sudo space su space hyphen, then you will become the root user. What is this sudo su hyphen command? How it works? What's the logic behind? I'll definitely talk about the command later, how this command is working. For now, just look that, right? Root is the super user. To log into the root user, you just need to run this command, right, from this EC2-user. This has full permission. Now let me try this. mkdir/dir1. You see the command is successfully working. Let me clear the screen. Sometime back I created one directory, right? Do you think the directory got removed when I run a clear command? No. Clear command is just cleaning your screen and go to the upper lines. Now I wanted to see the directory that I created some time back, guys. ls command, right? Let's say ls. Now I want to know the files and directories in root directory, right? You just need to run the command like this. ls to list the files and directories. Where you wanted to list? I wanted to see inside the root directory. So give the root directory as a argument to the command. Now you got this output. Now definitely you see somewhere dir1 is there. Is it proving that the directory that you created some time back is now available in the list? Yes. What is sudo command? What's the difference between sudo, su hyphen? All these things will come in next lecture, guys. We have at least 20 minutes session is there for sudo, how the sudo concept works. For now, I just wanted to jump to the root user. I just used the command. Let me do something now. I wanted to see the, first of all, let me see where I am. PWD. The PWD says that the present working directory, I am currently in /ROOT. Can someone explain what is /ROOT? The /ROOT means there is a slash directory, right? Inside the slash directory, there is a one more subdirectory. The subdirectory name is ROOT. Make sense? Sometime back, /home, /tmp, something like that, right? In the same way, now I have /ROOT. Slash is called as a root directory, correct? This is called as a root directory. Then what is this? This is also root directory. Of course, it is root directory from the terminology perspective because the directory name itself is ROOT. So I don't have any other name to call. But ROOT is just a directory name, like how you have any other directory like TMP, or how you have any other directory called dir1. Like how you got any other directories under the root directory, you have one more directory. The directory name itself is ROOT. That's only the thing. It's just confusing us much, right? But this is not a really a super directory. No, this is just one of the directory inside the top directory or root directory. Is it make sense? That's fine for me, right? Anyway, I'm not too much worried about this ROOT directory, which is inside my root directory. Maybe that makes more sense to me. Rather using the root directory, right? I will always use ROOT directory inside the root directory. Hope that statement is at least good, rather confusing us. Okay. I wanted to go to root directory, cd/ verify. Yes, I'm inside the root directory. I wanted to see what is inside the root directory. ls specify the directory name which you wanted to see. I want to go inside the dir1 cd /dir1. I want to verify myself currently I'm in which directory, pwd. You see that currently I'm in root directory. Inside that dir1. I want to create one more directory called dir2. This I wanted to create it under / directory. under dir1 directory. I want to go inside /dir1/dir2, verify the PWD. I'm just showing how to create a directories in the location where you wanted to, guys. Okay. Now, if you look into this, the preceding slash, whatever you see, that is called as a root directory, the top level one. Under the root level directory, there is one more directory. Under that, there is one more directory. So after that, whatever the slash that you see, that is just a separator. This is just separating the directories between the parent and the child, guys, nothing much. But the preceding slash always has the meaning which says that the top level root directory. So I'm just mentioning the complete path, or I'm just mentioning the absolute path in which location I wanted to create my directory and specify the directory name. So now the directory 2 is created inside the directory 1, which is already created in the root directory. Make sense? Now to go inside this directory, yes, cd command, specify the complete absolute path. You see currently I am working on this directory. So mkdir is to, let me do this, guys. Mkdir /dir1 /dir2 /dir3 /dir4. Can I do this? Nothing much. In one folder, I'm creating another folder. In that, I'm creating another folder. In that, I'm creating another folder. That's only the thing that I'm doing here. Nothing new. It is complaining. It is telling that, hey, I cannot create a directory that you have been asked for. Why? If you really, in this command, right, my goal is I want to create a dir4, right? If you want to have the dir4 directory to be created, definitely the parent should be there. This, if this has to be, the parent should be there. If this has to be, the parent should be there, correct? If this parent itself is not there, you cannot create this directory directly. So if you get this kind of the error, you have to verify whether all these parents are already there or not. How do you verify this? First, let me verify the top level root directory. I want to see what is under the slash. Okay, dir1 is there. I want to see what is under dir1. Okay, dir2 is there. I want to see what is under dir1 and dir2. This is the problem. Okay, look like inside the dir2 directory, there is no dir3. That means this parent is missing because output is empty, right? This parent is missing, and definitely I cannot create the 4 without having this to be created, correct? That's how we need to check this, guys. Windows, it is easy because whether you know, whether you don't know, you always do mouse click and keep on doing the searching very quickly. You'll be keep on jumping there and there, right? Without worrying about in which location you are currently in, because it's easy. But when it comes to here, we should be very particular because we need to specify the path manually. How to fix this problem, guys? mkdir /dir1 /dir2 /dir3. First, let me create a parent. Then let me create my 4. Now it is working. Can I do this? If you want to do this, right, first 6 has to be created, which is the parent, then the 7, that's the sequence, right? Either you create a 6 first, then you create a 7, or you can use the flag in the commands, guys. Usually in the Linux, the starting whatever you see the wording, that is the command. The ending whatever you see the highlighted one, that is called as a argument. In between, it is possible to pass some flags as well. The flags are changing the behavior of the command, how the command should be executed. Here -p is the flag which is telling to mkdir command that, hey, when you are creating this whole directory structure, if any parents are missing, please do create a parent first, then create a child automatically. That is what is the p flag is telling. Now it will not give any error because it know that it has to create a parent if the parent is not already exist. That's the advantage of having these kind of the flags. Where I am now, you see, I'm still in DR2 only, guys, right? So being in one directory, I can manipulate the data and the directories everywhere in my system, not like a Windows. Usually in a Windows graphical user interface, right? If you are in one folder, pretty much you can manage the things in this folder only, correct? You can't go to another folder. Like being in this window, I can't manage the other folders. If you want to manage other folders, you have to go to that folder again. But in Linux, right, you see, I'm still in the same directory DR2, but I'm able to create 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, lot of other things as well possible because I'm passing the absolute path. mkdir is the command to create a directory and specify the location or a path wherever you want it to. Good. Touch is the command to create a file. Again, when I'm creating a file, you need to specify the location, right? In which location I want the file to be created, correct? You want the file to be created in slash or inside the dir1 or inside the dir2. That's how you need to specify the path, or maybe inside the dir3, something like this. So whichever the location that you have been said, in that location the file might have been created. How to verify that, guys, whether my file is created or not? If it is Windows, so easy, right? Right click, new, create a file. How to verify the file is created or not? ls. Hey, I want to know what is inside dir1, inside dir2, inside dir3, correct? Now you see inside the dir3 there is a directory called dir4. Yes, that's what we created some time back. Now you see there is a file also. This is the file that I created in this command, and I'm able to verify that by giving the path, which is the absolute path. Where I am currently. You see, currently I'm in /dir1 and /dir2, but still I'm able to operate it on dir3 as well because I'm passing the absolute paths. Then what is the benefit of present working directory, correct? That will be your next question. Why should I be worried about PWD then? So the PWD will be coming to the effective when you are trying to do something but you don't give any path. Let's say I'm creating a file here Did I specify the location here, guys, saying that my file to be in which location? No. If you don't mention the location or path in which path you need this, by default that will be get created in the present working directory. Is it good now? You see, I created a file, but I did not mention any location. So by default, this is created in the present working directory. You see now under dir1 and dir2 location, I have my file to got created because dir2 is my present working directory and that is my default location if you don't mention anything over there. That will be applicable for all the commands, not just for this. For example, mkdir, I'm trying to create my directory. My directory name is, let's say, news. Did I specify the location here, guys, saying that in which location my directory to be? No. If you don't mention any location, any path, then by default it will be in project working directory. Now I can see that the news folder is also got created in this same location. When you are using the ls command, still if you don't give any path in which location you wanted to see, by default ls is looking into present working location only. So as a summary, whenever you are trying to create a directory, create a file, or looking for the list, if you specify the absolute path, it will be effective there. If you don't specify the absolute path, it will take the present working directory as a reference. rm is the command to remove the file if you want to, like deleting the file. It will ask for confirmation. Now the file is deleted. Again, when I'm deleting the file, I did not specify the location, right? If you don't specify the location, by default, it is assuming that the file has to be deleted from the present working directory and it is deleted. rmdir is the command to delete a directory. Same rule. If you don't mention the path, it assumes that it is in the present location and that got deleted. Let me clear the screen. Now, can I delete this dir3 directory? What was the command that I used some time back, guys, to delete a directory? Rmdir, right? Let me try this. Rmdir is the command to delete a directory if the directory is empty. But here it is telling that, hey, your folder is not empty, it has some data. Let me see, is there any data? ls, I want to see it in the dir3 location, correct? Okay, the dir3 folder is already containing some other subfolders and files, hence I'm not able to delete. If you want to delete this folder, first you need to delete the subfolder and subfiles. Make sure that this is empty, then you delete the empty folder. Or you can use the command called rm space -r. So rm is the command to remove, -r is a flag telling that, hey, remove it recursively. That means you first delete the subfolders, then you delete the directory itself. That is what is the R folder. Asking for confirmation, yes. You see, all the subfolders are now getting deleted. Finally, your directory also got deleted. I'm just playing different scenarios, guys, to get better understanding, because the the directory structure is the only critical important topic to get started with the Linux. The rest of all the topics will be very easy. So hence the reason I'm putting some efforts here. Can I do this? You can't, because currently you are in the same directory, right? How come you can delete the directory where you are already inside the directory? So you can't. So whenever you want to go to different directories, you can always use the cd command and can go wherever you want to. Now you can see that I just went to different directory. Let me clear the screen. I hardly explained 5-6 commands today, guys. These are just different scenarios that I have shown you, but if you talk about the list of commands, just 5-6 commands that I talked about, nothing much. Agree? I think if you get through the Linux introduction, you will get to know the Linux directory hierarchy stuff and the different details here, guys, just at a high level, and some of the commands and the examples that may help you guys. Now, let me log in again. I'll close this terminal. I will log in again. Easy to hyphen user, hit enter. Definitely, now we know that the Linux has multiple directories inside. If then, whenever you log in, sure, right, the bash shell will be landing into a default directory, correct? Any one of the directory. So the moment when you land there, just type pwd to see where you are currently logged in, right? The directory where you will be landing in after the login, that directory is called as a home directory from the terminology wise. If you log into the Windows, where will you be landing, guys? By default, you have thousands of folders in the Windows system, right? But the moment when you log into your laptop, where will you be landing? You will be landing in the desktop, right? Then you decide where you wanted to go. Same thing here, right? When you log into the system, the default directory where you will be landing in is called as a home directory, and then you decide where you wanted to go by using the cd commands. For EC2 hyphen user directory, the home directory is /home/EC2 hyphen user. Here the EC2 hyphen user is the name of the directory, guys. If you do ls/home, you see under the root directory, under the home directory, there is a directory called EC2 hyphen user. So that is the directory which is the home directory for this user. When you log into the root user, right? Now you see the directory /root is the home directory for root user. That's how it works. Every user will have their own home directory, which is the default landing directory after the login guys. Then you decide in which folder you wanted to go. You can always go to different folders, can start working on from the home directory. Whenever you do cd command and just hit enter, don't give any directory name to which directory you wanted to go. Just cd enter. By default, it will go to home directory. You see, whichever the home directory for the currently logged in user, it will just go to there whenever you do cd and enter. Are we good with this? Initially, I would advise you become the root user by running this sudo su hyphen command, and then you do your lab practices. Because if you do the lab practice being with EC2 hyphen user, since this is the ordinary user, you may be having some permission issues. So just go to root and do the lab practice. In next lectures, I'll talk about the difference between ordinary user, root user, how to give the permission for this user as well, all these different things. Well, so for now, the expectation is, right, take a paper and try to draw this type of hierarchy in your paper randomly, whatever the structure that you wanted to. Then go to the server, run the commands and start creating the structure and try to delete the structure again. That's the exercise that you need to do to get familiarity with this hierarchy, guys. Just now I did right, slash dir1 2 3 files. Same way, just randomly create something and try to practice these commands. That should be good enough. A little practice will definitely helps to make the things clear, guys. But believe me, once you know this directory hierarchy and how to use the Linux system, the rest of the things will be little easy. That's the story for today as well. And if any questions, do let me know, or else we are good for today. Today we talked about the Linux architecture and the bash shell introduction and absolute path, the file and directory hierarchy, and some sort of commands. The important commands that we talked about: touch command, mkdir command, rm command, rmdir command with few flags. That's it. Hope you like the session. If any questions, do let me know, or else we are good for today.